Basketball in the Chinese community really exploded in the late 90s, early 2000s, but the main tipping point was when Yao Ming entered the league in 2003, and that just propelled the popularity of the sport in a country where 1/3 of the world's population is located.
Nobody stopping Jeremy Lin on that play.
For me, like the most formative experience as a Chinese person watching basketball was definitely Jeremy Lin and the Linsanity run. Growing up, sometimes we would plan our days around watching basketball. For us, during that time, for me and my friends, every game that the Knicks played and every game that Jeremy Lin played was like the Super Bowl.
He looks like people from our community, and I think that people like that really help to influence and change how we think about the game.
Even fast forwarding to seeing Jeremy Lin win a championship with the Raptors, I think there's a huge sense of pride knowing that the journey that he took from Linsanity to getting to this point. So I think all of those were very key moments for myself and a lot of people.
I think it's incredible to see the way basketball brings together our community. I have some friends who play in the Toronto Chinese Basketball League, and to know that I think there's 19 tiers who compete in that league, it's just huge. The game is really far reaching, and it's just an excuse to see each other.
And I think it's also like it's across different generations, that even my dad, when he first came to Canada, he just knew basketball. That was the one topic that can resonate with everyone in the city.
I immigrated here from Hong Kong to Toronto in '92, and I was 8 years old at the time. And one of the things that really got me to start making friends and feeling like this was a home for me was playing basketball. Like playing basketball with friends on the playground, after school, joining the school's basketball team. And then coming here when the Raptors started in '95, for me, that was a huge turning point. Like you actually had your own team to root for. From a community building standpoint, the two things that made me feel really comfortable and really settle in and look at Canada as home was music and basketball.
I believe that in terms of the Chinese heritage and discipline, you'll see it in the way that Chinese people play. The friends and family that do play basketball in my life, they're all about the craft. They're there like putting the shots and putting the work in.
To be successful in this sport, you also have to work very hard. And I think that's definitely something that permeates from our culture into what makes the sport of basketball appealing.
So I brought the Raptors Show to Sportsnet and launched that a few years ago with Will Liu, who's also Chinese. And one of the things that we wanted to do, and we've always talked about, is to not forget our culture, not forget who we are, and continue to represent in ways that are both like obvious and subtle. We also want to spotlight people around the city that are important to us in the Chinese community. Came from a very traditional household growing up. I studied business, became an accountant, and I didn't switch careers into sports media until my late 20s. And part of the reason was I never even thought about it growing up because I would turn on the TV, I would read the newspaper, I would consume all this stuff about sports, and I never saw really a lot of prominent Chinese people doing it. And to be able to just impact one person, to turn on the TV, see what I'm doing, see what Will and I are doing, and for them to actually think about that this is a path that is available to them, that can make all the difference in the world. I think for the Chinese community, and honestly I think for immigrant communities as a whole, basketball is just such an easy way and an access point to bring different neighborhoods and communities together.
The Canadian Chinese Youth Athletic Association, or the CCYA, started in 1995 as a way to create opportunity for young people in the Chinese community to be able to play organized basketball. Because back then there wasn't necessarily the clear path to be able to play on your high school team or your college team, but in order to develop to get to that point, you need to have referees, you need to have score clocks and things like that. And we felt like people just playing on the streets weren't going to get that opportunity.
For me, it allows people like ourselves to know that there's a path to pursue basketball in any way that we want. Making the NBA is like obviously this like pipe dream, not that it doesn't have to be unrealistic, but you can play basketball at a pickup level, high school level, university level. You can just play basketball recreationally. And I think these spaces really allow for a lot of these different Chinese people, Chinese communities around the city to really come together.
I had the amazing privilege of designing the Lunar New Year jersey for the Raptors 905 this year. And for Lunar New Year, we were really celebrating the Year of the Dragon, which is a year that many people say it's actually the most lucky year for people to be born in. And so it's rooted in this idea of strength, of courage, bravery, and honor. I really wanted to pay homage to the Vince Carter beloved Raptors jersey that everyone talks about and wants to bring back. So we had that dragon holding the basketball in the same way. And then in terms of the details on the jersey, we have that patterning on the side, which is the patterning you would see on Chinese architecture, as well as the clouds that you see behind the dragon. The dragon lives in this like ethereal kingdom that lives up in the clouds, but it's also a motif that you'll see very often in Chinese paintings. It was so rare and there was so much demand, which I'm really humbled by and really grateful for. It was wanted by people who are not just Chinese, but people of all backgrounds. And so I think getting to see that, to see Chinese culture be embraced by so many people, felt really welcoming even to me. In terms of legacy, one thing that I actually want to bring up is there was a senior designer on the Raptors who passed away very recently. His name was Anthony Laxama, and he was an incredibly important part of our team of Asian heritage. And actually, when I was designing this jersey, I had just found out about his passing. So when I think about legacy, he comes to mind a lot. We knew him as a friend and as a husband, as a father, but really the physical work he leaves behind for the Raptors is unparalleled. And so when I think about my legacy and what I want to leave to the world, I really think about him and just the caliber of work that I want to put out. Also for his kids, for the next generation, for them to see that you can be Chinese and not have to go into like med school or not have to go into the sciences and math, but that something like a creative industry, like an art director or beyond, it's really available to you and a successful career can be had.
If you have a passion in the sports space, in the basketball space, there is room for you. But for people that look like myself, sometimes you have to open a lot of doors yourself because people aren't going to invite you into those spaces. And I hope that, through what I've done in my career and what I hope to still accomplish, that people can see that I can set an example for pursuing your own individual creative path in a unique way and still acknowledging your culture and your values along the way.